What's up, everybody, and welcome to ITG Daily, the show that brings you the hottest in gaming news. I'm Drew Bosley. That's the one, the only. It is Scott Savage. Scott, welcome back. Dude, how were the holidays?
Oh, it's been a long couple weeks we had off there. Mine began with moving house, so it wasn't exactly relaxing. It began with moving house, ended with COVID.
Yeah, it's funny. We started the holidays. I instantly got a cold. I was just like, wow. Well, at least let's get that out of the way and early, and then we got back into everything else, which is lots of gaming, lots of gaming, lots of family, and lots of fun. So it was good. But dude, we got lots on today's show where people can join us live over on twitch.tv/theofficialITG, as well as YouTube at the official ITG. If you're over on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button and that like button. Help us out over there. Scott, coming up on today's show. Oh, also, if you don't find us live each and every day and want to check us out later, you know where you can find us, Scott? Over on those beautiful TV streaming networks around the world, my friend. That's right, we're on television as well. So let's get into today's show, because it's a hot one. Naughty Dog's next game will be like a TV show. That's an interesting little take, isn't it, Scott? Is Konami's producer teasing a Metal Gear Solid remake finally getting something somewhere? Hopefully, and PSVR 2 could be going wireless. Thank you. Nobody wants those wires anymore. Come on, really? We all have phones. We're not tethered to anything anymore, Scott. So let's get going. You ready for today's show?
Like I listened to some of your feedback, actually.
That's right. They heard me over here. And I'm sure millions of others. Dude, let's get into it. Naughty Dog's next game will be structured more like a TV show. Interesting. This comes from Kelsey Rainier over at VG247. In a recent article with The New Yorker, Naughty Dog's co-president Neil Druckmann and The Last of Us HBO series showrunner Craig Mazin discussed the evolution of video games. Particularly, they talked about how The Last of Us came to be adapted into a TV show and what's next for Naughty Dog. There's initially a lot of discussion regarding the curse of video game adaptations. Scott, why is that? Because they've all kind of been really bad. Not all of them, but a lot of them. But it's changed as of what, like the last 2 years, I'd say? Things are starting to really kind of come around, right?
You've seen the shows come onto the Netflix series that I have not. Other than The Witcher, I haven't really kept up with any.
The Witcher, Arcane, like there's so many. good ones making its way over. The worst was when they all started going into movies, and like these don't work. Like they're really, really bad. But they've really started to come around. But either way, let's be real, video game adapted for the silver screen have never done all that well, unless you're a fan of Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Hopefully, this will put the video game curse to bed, Druckmann said regarding the Last of Us TV series adaptation. Mazin, on the other hand, suggests with a laugh that it's gonna make it worse. Quote, sometimes adaptations haven't worked because the source material is not strong enough. Sometimes they haven't worked because the people making it don't understand the source material. I think that's the bigger thing right there. I think the biggest thing for us, Scott, is that those who've taken the adaptation of our beloved medium and brought it over to the other side just didn't really understand what they're working with.
I felt that most strongly when Halo came up and came
out.
But it makes sense over time because these developers, these producers, they weren't in high school with me playing Halo 3 in grade 9.
No.
It's just a different experience I'll never share with corporate minded like that.
No, dude, I'll never forget when Nate lost his mind. We reviewed the Halo TV series, and as much as I did enjoy it, there were things where you're scratching your head right from the first episode, right? And there's a lot of
the master beef.
It's just, yeah, either way. However, Druckmann thinks the relationship between video games and adaptations of them has shifted somewhat and for the better. All in all, Druckmann appears to be of the firm belief that video games, film, and TV can all blend together, especially given the various industry professionals are open to switching between mediums. An example being that composer and Oscar winner, who is that, Scott?
Gustavo Santaolalla. What's the longer last name?
It was secured to score The Last of Us. And thanks this lends Druckmann to talk about Naughty Dog's plans for the future. The next project is supposedly structured more like a TV show than anything the studio has done before. The co-president has been assembling an entire writer's room for the project. The Last of Us is set to premiere on HBO Max on January 15th. Scott, that is so close, dude. Like, it is beyond close. I cannot wait.
I might have to get HBO now, specifically for this. It's been so long that I've had a subscription service that this might be enough to swing it.
No, absolutely.
Structured like a TV show. We've heard that come up in the past. Do you think that's going to be more like the Telltale kind of way of telling things, or possibly Quantum Break? I'm not sure if you played any of the Quantum Break, but
I beat Quantum Break. It was very interesting, and it fell apart right at the end with the boss fight.
Yeah.
Right? Honestly, yeah.
I think that was resolved a little bit better on the show half of it.
Well, that's okay. So I never saw the TV side of it. You went back. Did you go? So the way it was structured, if those who haven't played Quantum Break or watched the show, the way it was, you would play like a chapter, and then you were supposed to watch the TV show, and then play the next chapter, and then watch the TV show, and that's kind of how it played out. Here, is Naughty Dog looking to structure it that way as well, Scott? Or are they looking to do The Last of Us Part 1 and 2 and then The Last of Us TV show, right? Like, how are they bringing this into the next, are we going to get episodic stuff, like you say, right? Maybe like Telltale. I hope not. I don't want anything episodic from Naughty Dog. I want a full-fledged game, right? Because I'm there, dude, the minute Naughty Dog starts a game, I want to start it and I want to finish it. And I don't want to wait in between.
Well, yeah, hopefully if they do an episode related kind of thing, they drop them all together or in sections.
Right.
Similar, again, Hitman actually did that, didn't they?
Yep. Nope. So Hitman was structured when they started doing the reboot, right? They would do episodes. The way Hitman's a little bit different as well, though, because they want the replayability there, because there are so many opportunities to take out your targets. So it's structured a lot differently than where, like, The Last of Us, dude, it's an experience, but you want to enjoy that experience from the start to the finish, and you don't want to wait for the next episode. Where IO Interactive had Hitman go, okay, here's episode 1. Now you get a month off. Go take out the target countless different ways, endless times and opportunities, and then we'll give you episode 2. And then they did that again, and then people were like, can we just get the game? And then when Hitman 3 dropped, it was like, here's the game. So yeah, they went back to the original formula, right? So Yeah, lots, dude. There's so many things when it comes to The Last of Us. So many things when Naughty Dog it comes in the mix as well, because there's rumors of The Last of Us Part 3 being in production or in writers' rooms right now at this point, right? So there is, what are they working on for The Last of Us? Because Neil Druckmann said when they finished The Last of Us Part 2 that they are already thinking of opportunities and possibilities for The Last of Us Part 3. Where do you take that though, right? Like, no spoilers, obviously, for The Last of Us Part 2 if you haven't played it. If you haven't played it, my goodness, please go play that.
I'm very behind. That is
yeah, Scott is like not even in existence right now for The Last of Us, which is unfortunate. But if you get into that series, right, you get into a bit of a holy wow kind of moment for Last of Us Part 2 and The Last of Us, granted as well. There's so many great moments in that. But when it wrapped up at the end, there's like, what direction do you go? Do you stick with Ellie because Ellie is the main protagonist, right? She is the main star of that game. It's harder to lose that. Or if you go, there's just, do you go on a side character? Because there are so many incredible side characters. You could just take Abby's story, right? And work with her and give her the backstory on her own episode and her own game and build it forward that way. There's so many possibilities. But then at the other side of it too, Scott, Naughty Dog's supposed to be working on a whole other game altogether, like a sci-fi or fantasy, sorry, a fantasy game. So that changes up everything, right? So now what? And you do fantasy and like a TV show? How? What does that mean, Neil? Call me up. I'd like to hear about it.
I'm hoping this The Last of Us 3 is gonna take all the time it needs, but I think that means next console generation almost.
I think you're right. I think they at this point should take time away. Let The Last of Us rest. We're now getting the HBO series. We're going to be jumping in this year. Scott, it's this year. 2023 is the year. We're getting The Last of Us multiplayer part 2. Please give us Factions 2, whatever you want to call it. I will be there day one, grinding out the multiplayer, even though I'm not all that good at multiplayer games. I do have Blast. And I want to be a part of that, right? Like, where does that go? So they're going to have The Last of Us in there somewhere, but the team needs to recharge. When you work on a game year in and year out on the same and then the same and then the same, right, you kind of burn out on that same formula of, okay, what can we do that's new? What can we do that's exciting and refresh things? That's why they did this big moment, right? They wanted to give that shock factor. Well, how do they do that for 3? Where does that go? You know what? Let it sit, let it simmer. Let's move on to something completely different. And this is where we get into the fantasy side of things, right? So what's up, Booty? So there is that opportunity. Now we're getting into a whole, and anytime you mention Naughty Dog, everybody just wants to go, what do you got? What do you have for us, right?
Oh yeah, no, such a highly prestigious company.
Absolutely. Scott, speaking of a highly prestigious company, I don't know if I got that one, but Metal Gear Solid producer teases long-awaited announcement. This comes from Zarmena over at PlayStation Life. A tease by Konami's Noriaki Okamura has fans hoping that the rumored Metal Gear Solid remake project is real. Scott, is it real? We are hoping to find out more soon. In a year-end message published by Famitsu, the MGS producer said that Konami will be announcing several games in 2023 and that his key word for 2023 is long-awaited. Scott, Konami, well, yeah, this is where we get into a whole whack of things, right? Like this opens up Pandora's box of opportunities here. Konami has already indicated that it will be reviving its prize IPs, including Metal Gear Solid, Castlevania, and Silent Hill. However, there's been no official confirmation of anything related to Metal Gear Solid. Yet, in 2020, rumors emerged that Metal Gear Solid PS5 remake is in the works, along with an HD remasters of 2, 3, and 4. Then we heard reports of Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater being remade, and there's reason to believe that this one, it might actually be true. Earlier this month, a Spanish website claimed to have already heard sources from Konami was making a Metal Gear Solid 1 exclusive for PlayStation 5. Scott, are we finally going to get somewhere with Metal Gear Solid after all this time?
Oh man, I'm really hoping for that. But then again, I think I wake up just about every morning hoping for more Metal Gear.
Well, okay, so that's the biggest thing right now. More Metal Gear is the biggest question, but when you don't have Kojima involved, is it really Metal Gear?
Yeah, well, it's then you're limited to only doing remakes, remasters.
Yeah,
But
will we get something new, or are we stuck with remakes and remasters? Which isn't so bad, dude, because honestly, I'd love to go back to Shadow Moses in the first one and relive that whole experience. Or give me Snake Eater, my favorite of the Metal Gear Solid franchise.
there's really any sort of, I was thinking about that. There's really any Metal Gear I would eat up in an instant. Perhaps 4, because that's the one I didn't get access to because it's Xbox
really?
only for so long. But
Yep.
oh, there really is just about any of them. Number 2 is so out there and wacky that I'm not sure if it would do really well with today's audience or not at all. It's kind of one or the other.
Man, I remember being crushed in 2 when Raiden showed up. I was like, what is this? And then you play I'm like, that right, this is where you kind of get into the Last of Us discussion, right? Do you keep Ellie for the third one, or do you move on? Because when you got into 2, some people loved it or they hated it because they switched it up with a big shock of, you don't play Snake anymore. And I was like, whoa, no, this isn't Metal Gear anymore, right? That's where things changed up. Next thing you know, you're on rollerblades. It was weird. Yeah. But what else do you expect?
I remember the fight you're talking about, actually.
Yeah, right. And then over the holidays, dude, I jumped back into 5. I'm back. It is the only one I have not finished, so it is on my to-do list for 2023 over the course of the time to get this game wrapped up and get ready to hopefully play whatever they're gonna give us for a remake. But I think going back to 1 and rebooting the franchise to introduce everybody to it, maybe over the course of remakes, reboots, and such, we can find that right producer to kind of take the helm of what Kojima has created for the next iteration of what Metal Gear can be, right? I think that's where does Metal Gear lie? We do know, Scott, as well, because Konami has announced it and they have revealed it, that Silent Hill 2 is coming back, or Silent Hill as a remake as well. So Konami is looking to make a return. They have some of the most beloved IPs in the franchise, in the gaming industry, right? You have Metal Gear, you have Silent Hill, you have Castlevania. These are top tier
a brand new
games.
Castlevania. I think the time is right for that.
Right? So there's a lot of opportunities here to kind of push things forward and get Konami back to the high level that we all held them at one point. Because when Konami announced the game was coming, right, it was kind of like that Naughty Dog situation of you just want to know more. You want to know what's next, and you want to play whatever they produce. So if we can get back in, reboot Metal Gear, reboot Silent Hill, and reboot Castlevania, dude, Konami could be one of the top tier developers once again, like they used to be, because they've gone dormant. They've more or less disappeared over the course of the past decade.
And it's a little better that way rather than just kind of fizzle along with a not such good lineup. They preserved these giant IPs.
Well, and it gives them the opportunity to just suddenly just drop it, right? And go, we're back. And here's our top 3 tier games that we're going to be bringing back. And everybody wants a piece of the pie. Everybody wants to experience these again, because it has been so long, especially for Metal Gear, for me as a Metal Gear fan of the series, because when we got Death Stranding, I was like, this isn't Metal Gear, when I knew it wasn't going to be, but I had hopes there was going to be some kind of elements in it. And I saw Kojima tweeting over the holidays that he's talking about how, you know, some of these games took a couple years for people to kind of gravitate towards and hook on into, and Death Stranding seems to be getting that hook now, but he called it like a rope delivery service game. I was like,
yeah, I think I did see that. Yeah.
Right? It's just weird to think of. But yeah, more Metal Gear, please. Do we get it this year? I don't think so. I think we get an announcement this year, and then next year or the year after is when we get the actual Metal Gear. I think this game has been in development already, Scott, but I don't think they're that far away. I think we're going to get it sooner than later. I just don't think we're getting it this year.
If it is truly going on right now in development, I'm surprised we haven't had one leaker.
Yeah,
you know, with a screenshot or something solid.
Yeah, Scott, what we are getting this year, however, though, is PlayStation is teasing the PSVR 2 with a wireless model. My goodness, please, because nobody wants to be tethered to anything anymore. Some Kate over comicbook.com.
I wanted the 8 camera setup.
HTC Vive, you're tethered, and then all the stations are around you. It's a fantastic setup, but it is quite the system to get into. And if you can make it, it's the ease of use to break down the barrier of VR. right? I got hit up over the weekend. This weekend? Last week. Throughout the week, anyways, asking should she get a PlayStation VR or the Meta Quest 2? And I instantly told her to either wait for the PSVR 2 or get the Meta Quest 2. And then I said, you're probably better off to get the Meta Quest 2 because everything's coming to PlayStation VR 2 besides Horizon Call of the Mountain is already on Meta, right? It's already on the Quest 2. And that's your better bang for your buck because it's cheaper, and it's just easy to get into. She already has a Facebook account. Not that you have to tie that into anymore, but at one point you did. So there's been a couple of different things changing up there.
I'm not sure what's happened with that.
They got rid of it. People did not like that at all, man.
I didn't particularly like that myself, but
no, a lot of people didn't. Right. So there are certain games you're only going to be able to experience, obviously, on PlayStation. And then there's certain games that you can get on MetaQuest as well as PlayStation. But let's get into Cade's article here. PlayStation appears to be teasing a wireless version of the PlayStation VR 2. PSVR 2 is one of the biggest hardware launches coming in 2023. And it seems like it's going to be a pretty big leap for the medium. When the first PSVR headset came out, it felt like Sony wasn't fully committed. The headset was kind of bulky. That's for sure. It was. It didn't have great resolution. It was awful. I often referred to it as 720. It reused controllers from the PlayStation 3, which was a misstep. The camera to track the headset wasn't very premium, so it felt like Sony was trying to test the waters without sinking costs. It's exactly what they did, right? But I also heard Shuhei Yoshida say, this is like our PlayStation 1. We're jumping in, but we're here for the long term. Now we're on PlayStation 5. So that tells you where we're going, right? So if we can keep going with that momentum here for PlayStation VR, Scott, dude, I'm excited. What I'm not excited about right now is a lineup for launch at PlayStation VR 2's launch in February. Just next month. Next month. Dude, it is out next month. And I'm like, I just want Horizon. But I can't sink $800 into this thing just to play Horizon Call of the Mountain. Right?
There's no PlayStation version of Aspire on the way, is there? I don't think I've seen anything.
No. I wonder if Aspire 2 is coming to PlayStation VR 2. I think they are. They have to be. They have to be. I think they will be there. However, it proved successful enough for Sony to go all in on PlayStation VR 2 with high-resolution OLED screens, eye tracking, fancy new controllers that are pretty intuitive for VR, and much more. It's the real deal, and it will cost a lot. It is, but it has pesky wires. That's the biggest thing. Right now, they were able to condense it down to one cable. That's a huge improvement, Scott, over the spaghetti of my PlayStation VR with a box and then another connector which had to connect to this, and then you connected it to that, and then you had the motion controllers from the PlayStation iToy, or whatever that thing was. I can't remember. Then it just wasn't intuitive enough. However, dude, those things you could buy an attachment for a gun and they click in, and the next thing you know, you're holding a gun. Oh, it was cool. That part was cool. Oh, it was awesome. Yeah. However, although Sony has apparently streamlined the wire resolution with PlayStation VR 2, it's still something that headset like MetaQuest 2 has been able to shake. Players can hook up a cable to the Quest 2, but it's completely optional. However, it is mandatory for the PlayStation VR 2. That may not be the case forever, though. When speaking to Famitsu, Sony's SVP of Platform Experience, Hideki Nishonori, stated that the company was looking into a wireless option, but hasn't committed to one due to concerns of low performance. That's the biggest thing, Scott. Taking away that wire connection to your PlayStation 5 now lessens the capabilities, lessens the power it has. That's the biggest concern, right? Because the minute you plug in your Quest 2 to your PC, which is already probably a bit of a beast of a machine, it steps it up a bit, right? Like, you have the better resolution, you have the better fidelity within the headset. You take it off, dude. I'm playing Beat Saber and I'm lagging with my controllers on the Quest 2. That's a problem, right? That is a big problem. So if they can get it down to one wire for PlayStation VR 2, I'm okay with that. I would have preferred it to be completely wireless, because then you can take it wherever you go. And that's the biggest bonus right now where the Quest 2 stands, because if I go to my brother's place on the weekend, if I want, I can just pack it up and take it with me. Can't do that. Yeah. Now I'm packing up my PlayStation 5, my headset, and then lugging it all down. Dude, I got a box I'm carrying, right? Because the PlayStation 5 is already like this big.
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts, Scott?
I'm still very curious as to, do we need to go down to 0 wires? And I only say that because I have one VR headset, and that's
Sure.
the Rift F. So it's quite aged now at this point. But
Yep.
I'm always 6 feet or closer to my computer, so I've never really had the thought
Of free roaming, right? Where I'm off to
Yeah.
the side of my living room. I don't have the biggest living room space by the time you fit everything in it and our 2 TVs and this, that, and the other. But by the time you get over in the one corner, I'm free to move around without getting tangled up on wires. That is the biggest perk, right? That is one of the biggest features of the Quest 2 is that you're not tethered to anything. So I'm not stuck in one location. I'm not, if I want, I can bring it downstairs, work here in the basement if I wanted to, or I can go wherever I want. And I'm not worried about if I spin around the other way, right? I'm now tangled up in a cable. PlayStation VR, the original, needed the camera so that it could pick up the headset, and now it no longer needs that, right? Everything's built in.
The biggest change. The biggest change, having onboard cameras, because that tower didn't work very well. I had only seen the PSVR one time. Actually, it was our own Nathan borrowed it from me, I believe.
Yeah.
It was set up in my living room, and I didn't have a single moment of work in that setup. I just watched it. It came down, it was already there, and I thought, okay, cool.
But there's a ton of wires, right?
Yeah, it looked quite complicated. We have chairs here, there, and in front.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Hideki also said, we understand that going wireless will give you another experience, so we're always looking at possibilities and doing technical research. So we'll see what happens, Scott. I am definitely interested to see what does that model cost then. If we're already at $800 being tethered to our PlayStation 5, did we just go up because we were able to get rid of a wire? Are we now $1,000 in? But this isn't going to be a cheaper experience. It's going to be more costly in the end, I think, for us as consumers, as gamers who are looking to get into this world of VR. And I think moving forward into PlayStation VR 2, there's going to be some innovation coming forward that I'm definitely excited for. But Calling the Mountain, man, is definitely got my interest. Scott, just like that, though, my friend, the show is over. Everybody, thank you for hanging out with us. As always, you can catch us live over on twitch.tv/theofficial ITG and YouTube. Until tomorrow, everybody, though, Drew. Deuce. I'm Drew. That's Scott. We'll see everybody tomorrow inside the game.